And we're live, not with an intro, but almost like an intro. We're live, and today also in full HD. So thank you so much, Rashad, Forrest, Joe, Brandon, to join us live. How's it going? How's the Bitcoin week going?
That's why we look so good. Holy, I didn't even notice, but I can see it now. We are in high HQ. This is the first week I think we started without any pre-show issues. So I'd say we're trending in the right direction.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. We just needed like Bitcoin shows to
go in the right direction.
Up into the shows,
right.
Yeah.
1% better each week.
Yep.
I titled this today, Bitcoin is coming back and weak hands are gone. I think in the thumbnail I put like strong hands or something like that in there. And the reason is I think this is the lowest sentiment, and I feel like maybe you guys can chime in, like if you've seen something worse than that. But this is the lowest sentiment I have ever seen since I'm doing Twitter and YouTube videos. I haven't been around in 2022 as a content creator. I was only a Bitcoiner back then. So I don't know. Is this the lowest sentiment of like people are dumping quantum FUD, all of those things, weirdly, all of a sudden, randomly in the community? How do you guys think about the sentiment currently in Bitcoin?
I think people are. I think people were really, really worried when it was at 60K. I think it's getting better now. Like I feel like at that point a few weeks ago, who knows? Maybe we go lower, but it feels like the fear and greed index kind of. It was accurate because that was when it was the lowest, and that's when I got all the bears coming out. Like we got Peter Schiff running victory laps. It was like it was probably the best time to buy.
Yeah, I definitely think it was worse like not that long ago actually, as far as like peak fear. But it's kind of like it hasn't gotten better as like people are more bullish or anything. It's just people can only live in that sort of emotional space for so long before they move on to something else. So it's almost worse in the way of like people not caring as much. But I think people have just kind of moved on. But I mean, fear has to be definitely in the streets for quantum FUD to come back. Like I saw a tweet again. Like I don't know if you guys saw the stuff that Nick Carter posted about Google wrote an article about specifically talking about quantum with cryptocurrencies and private public key peering. But I saw a tweet that perfectly summed it up. That's like, but if the price was up on Bitcoin, this wouldn't even reach anybody's timeline, because it's totally just like a strike when the fear is hot kind of thing with those kind of headlines, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think about quantum, but I think it's a ridiculous fear argument.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, it seems like I get what you guys are saying in terms of like I think it was about a month ago now, it was just lots of negativity. But again, we talked about the sense that all energy is good energy, negative or positive. So I feel like it was a good thing for Bitcoin, even though a lot of people are shitting on it. My comment section was just full of gotchas and actuallys and 0-hour dipshits. But I did a stream this morning and there was probably 100 people in there between YouTube, Rumble, Nostr. And I haven't seen that level of people in my streams since pretty much November 2024, which was when it was running up. Trump was about to get elected. Everybody's going crazy for Bitcoin. That was kind of like the last time I had triple digit numbers watching my live streams every morning. So I don't know. It feels like something's going on right now. It seems like people are starting to feel it more. I think there's more information about there in terms of like the connections between AI and Bitcoin. I saw that some AI went rogue. I forget what company it was, but the AI went rogue and started allocating the company's resources from AI to mining. They said cryptocurrency, but it had to have been Bitcoin. So like the AIs are trying to figure out how to self-sustain themselves, and they see that Bitcoin's like the way to do that, which is really cool. I haven't had time to like fully dive into that yet. I was just kind of looking for it right now. But yeah, I mean, I think we're in a good spot right now, boys.
Yeah, it's just first principle thinking, right? I mean, we've got some questions here about talking about the FUD, the quantum stuff. And again, Nick Carter's done a lot of good stuff for this space. He's also a venture capitalist, right? He's also, he's got some different, follow the money. What Bitcoiners do best is follow the money analysis. So where are you getting money from? Who are your sponsors? Go on down the list, right? We've joked about in the last 6 years, that scientists or doctors should have to wear on their lab coat who's giving them money. And that, it's a Charlie Munger, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome. And so this is the world we live in. And what we hope with Bitcoin is that we can flip those incentives of society, and the malinvestment starts going away, just naturally healing over time. And again, from first principles thinking, the quantum FUD, again, Bitcoin's a $1.5 trillion asset protocol. If there's quantum fears, the U.S. military, 13 aircraft carriers are going to be the first thing someone to go after. I'm not going to go after the Bitcoin. I'm going to go after Jamie Dimon and J.P. Morgan Chase. I'm going to go after the U.S. government. I'm going to I'm going to go through the military. Like, I wouldn't be attacking Bitcoin. And again, at the end of the day, these things are already being worked on. There was, Joe, I don't know if it was, us talking about this the other day or who was talking about this, but there's already, some stuff being worked on, multiple different initiatives to shore that up. And we know to go forward, Bitcoin is the only thing that's anti-fragile enough to actually take on the attacks of quantum. The centralized nodes of the fiat legacy monetary system are never going to be able to handle this. Just in the last week, I've seen like 10 different, centralized honeypot hacking, of people's information, of data breaching. That stuff is just going to continue in a world where people aren't incentivized to actually, the US government is not incentivized, or any government for that matter, because they just print over their mistakes with your inflation, with your time and energy. And it just happens through inflation, socialize the losses and privatize the gains. This is how this cycle just happens over and over again. So just coming from first principles, again, Bitcoin is the least of your worries at the end of the day, but it's also the only thing that's going to actually make it through and be able to change quick enough to actually handle quantum threats going forward. So again, like someone said, the ETH guy wrote the article and we talked about this in the last week too. Nothing positive in the legacy system is ever said about Bitcoin. So remember, that's the frame of mind. That's why Bitcoin's a 4-letter word, because it's only for 17 years have you heard bad things, negative press, FUD about Bitcoin, when in reality, if you were a greenie, you would have found this after 17 years. You would say, hey, if I actually cared about the climate, if Greta cared about the climate, she would have found Bitcoin. It's the only thing that cleans up, which we just saw the other day. Daniel Betten shared the guy who's one of the biggest, climate guys in the world. And he said, yeah, Bitcoin mining is the only thing that actually clears up the methane gas. So like the signal's all there if people actually want to do the work, but we're headline readers and we get scared. We're humans, we're emotional, and it's first principles.
Yeah. The way I look at the quantum FUD is pretty simple. It's all theoretical. And because it's theory, it means it's uncertain, because nobody knows. It's sort of like Schrodinger's cat, Schrodinger's cat is what I'm thinking of. It sort of exists and doesn't exist. And so with that comes uncertainty, and that's what breeds the fear. But it's also beyond that, just even more simply, we theoretically have the cryptography that is quantum resistant, and we don't have the computers that can break any sort of cryptography. So why are we worried about something that doesn't exist when we have something that does exist that protects against it? Just because Bitcoin hasn't adopted that doesn't mean that it couldn't, and it will when it's needed to. So I don't understand, like, why worry about a gun that doesn't exist when you're already wearing a bulletproof vest, basically.
Yeah, that's it.
I think go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, just like a simple thing, like don't use addresses, don't reuse them. Like there's actually very simple things to combat the quantum, and like old wallets, maybe, stuff from 15 years ago might be in trouble, possibly, So like they're so like out there that it's just fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And I think if you got a wallet from the early days, like 2011, and you're sitting on like 10,000 Bitcoin that you mined in 2011 on your laptop, you're probably just going to see this. Yeah. You've been through everything at that point. Like that's 15 years pretty much of Bitcoin. You've seen it all. You've heard it all. But you're like, okay, well, maybe this quantum thing's legitimate. What am I going to do? Just move it to a new address. Like it's really not that complicated. You don't have to go and spend a whole bunch of money on equipment and hire a team. You just move it to an updated address that's supposed to be more or less susceptible to quantum stuff. And these guys aren't stupid. Of course they're doing that. And maybe that's some of the older coins that have been moving. Maybe that's what it was. So I think it's actually really good for Bitcoin, because we're going to be able to see a much clearer picture of which coins are actually lost. That's kind of how I see this playing out. We're going to have a better idea of what the actual supply is, the available supply, which is the denominator in this whole equation. And the more accurate that number is, I think the better Bitcoin is as a money. Because you look at fiat, you look at gold, we have no idea how many dollars exist, how many gold ounces exist. It's a complete guess. Bitcoin, we know the maximum is going to be 21 million, but we still don't know how many of those coins are actually available or how many of those sats are available. So I think it's actually a good thing. People look at it as a bad thing, but I actually think it's a good thing for Bitcoin, the quantum stuff. And like Brennan said, I think everybody here in the chat and in this video right now, we've seen somebody in the last couple of weeks, myself included, who have been hacked. And it's just like everything on the internet, I think, is just kind of up for grabs right now. It's going to get worse. And Bitcoin is the best protection against that. So it's kind of a no-brainer. Going back to like the first principle stuff, like it's where people should be. It's the only safe haven, I feel like, on the internet right now.
I was just watching the chat and I love that comment. Are people without facial hair allowed to buy Bitcoin?
No.
I know. I was about to shave earlier too, so I'm glad I didn't. There we go.
But I think it's really interesting because we have always FUD waves. So there's the environmental FUD. We have now the quantum FUD. There was always something going on, and there's always like small FUDs here and there. There's like smaller waves, and then there's like big waves that kind of make the headlines. That like your uncle comes to you and says, "Hey, but isn't Bitcoin like bad XYZ FUD that's currently going on?" And I think there's like something big underneath all of that. It's that new technologies, things that kind of revolutionize a system, have to prove that they are 100x better than the existing system. For example, if we say like cars that are driven by humans versus self-driving cars. Self-driving cars have to be like 100 times or 1,000 times more safe and better than a human driver for people who say, yeah, I think it's way better to just like have the self-driving car than just like getting in a taxi or something like that, because we have this fear in there. We want to keep our systems as they are. There's like an incentive to keep things as they are, conserving them. And Bitcoin in that sense is kind of challenging the current system. And so we have to be better in every single way. And so as Bitcoin are always like frustrated, like, why are you worried about the quantum FUD with our Bitcoin if every single bank account is way more unsecure than our Bitcoin? It's because we are the kind of challenging system, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think the main difference though, Robin, that I would say is like with cars, people driving them themselves versus self-driving cars. Like for me, I see fiat as Bitcoin's already 100x better. It's just that people don't know that yet. Like we're already there, because we know one thing for sure is that fiat takes zero to produce. It's a complete illusion. It's been the greatest lie perpetrated on humanity in history. And they're just going to continue printing more units. Those units are going to be worth less. We know that for sure. Bitcoin, on the other hand, fixes that. So it's infinitely better than that. It's just where we are right now is people learning that, figuring that out. And that's kind of like the leg that we're in right now. It's like we're here. We talk about this stuff every day. We're in this world right now. But most people aren't. Like you go to any city and just have conversations with people, and you can see pretty clearly of how early we are. It doesn't feel like that when we're in chat rooms and videos like this, but it's just we're on a whole nother planet almost, it feels like some days.
Look at the community too. You know, I think part of it, this is why going to, whether it's going to meetups, peer-to-peer, this is how Bitcoin spreads, right? Peer-to-peer. And whether it's peer-to-peer, local stuff, it's what we're doing here, collaborations, it's people in the chat, it's the conferences. You generally see people that are probably on the chat here, us here, people going to conferences. These are the most ardent people. And so in saying all that, there's something to that. You know, like, why is that? You feel that compelled. You're incentivized to uphold the integrity of the network. So again, the legacy system is a zero-sum game. There's no reason to uphold the integrity of the network. I mean, look, you can't trust the voting systems. There's no way, just by the very existence of there's no auditing ability on anything we do, pretty much, whether it's a legacy banking system or voting or anything. How can you trust it, right? It's trust but verify. And Bitcoiners know that, but now the world is starting to wake up to this auditing, trust but verify. I see legacy news anchors, Glenn Beck, now talking about this, using the memes of Bitcoiners. And so it's a level set upgrade. The consciousness of people are starting to rise just across the board here, and it's going to slowly start permeating out. But again, look at the community. We go to conferences, we come to meetups, we do these things to spread what's actually happening, because a lot of people that get worried that I see personally are people that either haven't done a lot of homework, or maybe they're new, or they're not plugged in. And I don't mean day to day. You don't have to be plugged in day to day, but just like, hey, once a week, once a month, check in, what's going on, do some homework, figure out what's actually happening. Because a lot of us can sit here and talk about it very confidently. It's because we're in the system all the time. We're seeing what's going on. We're talking to other peers, other nodes in the system. We're seeing what's happening. And so that quells a lot of the fear right there. And that existing system, again, when you juxtapose it against that existing system, where it's zero sum. Fiat is zero sum. They just paper over by using your time and energy to do it. Oh, made a mistake. Oh, lost all your data. Oh, we lost all your wealth. Oh, we went to war again. Well, they just paper over it. They don't ask you, where Bitcoin is completely opposite of that. So the people in the system are incentivized to uphold the integrity of the system. And what I'm getting at with all this is, if there's a lot of people in the Bitcoin ecosystem that are worried about the FUD or worried about quantum, just as an example, then maybe that'd be something to start getting worried about. But I've seen zero people that I know that are hardcore Bitcoiners. They've been in for maybe at least over 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Zero people in my life that are worried about quantum FUD. That should, again, that's that signal. And that's part of being a part of a robust anti-fragile social layer as well, where the existing system is completely detached from reality. They're just quite honestly shitheads, the Paul Krugmans of the world, politicians, all these people, how you can't trust them as far as you can throw them. They're constantly wrong. And then they're fudding our system. And so, like, again, you have to take all of that, and it's simplistic, right? At the end of the day, like, some of these things are not that complicated. It's just getting out of your own way, zooming out and saying, hey, Occam's razor. Usually the easiest answer is the correct answer.
The one thing that I disagree with, that what you said there, Brendan, was you said it's a zero sum game. It's actually a negative sum game, because there's always fees being taken out. There's inflation. Central banks are automatically going to take some value out of you. And then something else you said there, fiat is basically like it's a scam, right? I mean, it's used to paper over every mistake that governments make, that banks make. I agree with that. But something else that I thought of was, I think I mentioned this before, but on The Office, there's an episode where Kevin's like, a mistake plus 11 gets you home by 7. That's basically what fiat is, right? It's like, it's papering over the mistakes, and you just put in whatever numbers you want, as long as the end balance is right. That's all that matters. And that's what they do with fiat printing, right? So what they do is, the Federal Reserve is buying assets, toxic assets that are in the market, and nobody else wants to buy them. So what they do is they just print more dollars and they buy them, so that the market doesn't figure out that these assets are toxic and the people issuing them are toxic. And that's that K11, right? That K11 is basically just the fiat that they print.
Mm-hmm.
They print out as much fiat as they want to. And just for anybody who doesn't have context, it's basically like Kevin was an accountant in The Office, and he was, of course, in control of all their books. And to make sure that he didn't have to work longer than he had to, he would basically just make up numbers. That's essentially what fiat is, right? They just make up numbers.
Except they don't even tell us what the numbers are, though.
Yes, that's the thing, right? Kevin made up his own number called K11. Fiat is all made up. Like, that whole thing is made up. Like, exactly. They don't even tell us what the numbers are, and it's just wild, because people are falling for it. And they say that Bitcoin is a scam, right? Whereas Bitcoin is fully transparent. You can see everything that you want. You can see every single transaction that's ever happened on the Bitcoin network. And people say that fiat is the thing that we need to use. It's crazy.
That's a good
One
analogy.
thing-
I've never thought of that before.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what's happening with fiat in the real world. And it's this little microcosm concept in the
Yeah.
American office. That's really funny.
We got some good question, boys. What do we want to do here? Do we want to what is this? Our 7th one or 6th one? Mastermind?
Seventh one already. Yeah, I was actually already putting it down. The 2 questions. I think BIP 110 and Bitcoin adoption for medium exchange. I think those 2 that I saw, but there are many more that I probably not saw. So okay. I thought maybe we could even just use the first 20, 30 minutes to rant on whatever we want to rant on. But then we can actually take on questions. So if you guys want, we can already tackle one. Yep. Did you have a specific question in mind, Chua, like you want to have?
No, I just figured like the first 6 episodes we've done, we've just talked the whole time. So we should try to get some questions mixed in. We never ran out of things to talk about. I think the last week we could have ran for another 2 hours, but I do see 2, or are these from last week? They got to be from last week. Those starred ones in the chat.
The super chats.
Yeah,
those are old, I think.
Okay,
that's crazy. I don't even see them anymore.
I see them.
Anyways,
the start at least. Yeah, I see them.
Yeah. So, I mean, the quantum stuff for me, all the FUD, it's their only tool that they have. I think they know that. And it's not going to slow down. It's probably going to get worse. And the thing that makes me fearful, because I agree with Brandon in the sense of like every day we're seeing more and more green lights around the world turn on, which is essentially like an understanding of Bitcoin, but it's also understanding of just how broken the system is. And the thing about those green lights is once they turn on, they never turn off. And if you saw a map from overhead of the world and you saw all these green lights turning on every day and them never shutting off, you could see where this thing's going. And you might not see a big change day to day or week to week, but like if you look at it year to year, even the fact that Dorsey turned on the on button for all businesses with a Square terminal to start accepting Bitcoin payments, like that's massive. If you look at the chart, it's basically like flat, and then 2026 is straight up because they basically onboarded 4.5 million businesses in the US to accept Bitcoin. Like that's massive. That's absolutely massive. So now I could walk into a business with a Square terminal and pay using Bitcoin, which is what I prefer to do. The business doesn't have to receive Bitcoin on there, and they can receive cash or Bitcoin or a mixture of both. But just the fact that they now have the ability to do that, I think is incredibly underrated and under discussed within the economy and the industry as a whole.
And I think this ties perfectly into this question from Scotty V9900. He said, can you guys talk about the adoption going forward right now? If you want to use Bitcoin, there are no places that take it. I mean, there are some places, but I get the sentiment. There's like not that many, but I can even buy burgers here in Vienna. So it's actually surprises me how many there already are. I would have just to sell back for fiat, kind of like the adoption question of how can we get not only Bitcoin as a store of value, but also as a medium of exchange, which ties perfectly in what George just said. I'll just put in as an input there. I think we are very early on the medium of exchange side of things. People don't realize how early we are in this whole Bitcoin spiel. And first, we kind of have to figure out what Bitcoin is, educate the masses on why it has value, educate the masses, why it's a good store of value also. And then slowly, we can transform that in like, hey, I can also get that going as a medium of exchange. And I think maybe as an interesting thought, I started demanding more and more that I can pay things with Bitcoin once I got paid in Bitcoin. And I wanted to get paid in Bitcoin because I did not want to convert everything and give the exchanges so much value. And so I think it's probably the first move is probably like, hey, I want to get paid in Bitcoin. And then like the other side of like, hey, I want to pay things in Bitcoin. How do you guys look at that?
I think it'll take some time, right? It'll just, it's like adoption for anything else where it's like, I think it was Jor that said it. Basically, it's like a generational kind of thing where there are generations that hold on to it. He explained it in a different way. And I basically said that it's a generational asset. Like it's going to take decades and decades and generations for it to basically be deeply ingrained in society. It's going to take some time. And I think Jor, you said that it was the generation. So this generation ends in 2039. I think in one of your videos you said.
Yeah.
And yeah. So what I think of in that way is that the people who hold Bitcoin, they hold it and it goes up while they're holding it, right? So let's say, for example, if you started buying Bitcoin at 126K, there's no way that you're spending it on things because why would you spend it at a loss? Why not just give away your US dollars? But if you bought Bitcoin at, let's say, $1, you're probably going to want to buy a house with it. Because let's say you bought 10,000 Bitcoin at the time, 10,000 Bitcoin, $10,000. Now you can buy a house for like 40 Bitcoin. It's basically, in a way, it's costing you $40. Adjusted for inflation, maybe $100, right? But the point is that over time, everybody who holds Bitcoin will eventually be in profit because US dollars are infinite. There's no limit to how many dollars can exist. And that's what's going to push more people to spend. Because when you have, let's say your Bitcoin is up only 2-3x, maybe you don't want to spend it, but it goes up 10x and you have so much Bitcoin, all you can do at that point is just stare at a screen, right? What else are you going to do with that Bitcoin? You have to spend it. You have to enjoy your life. You have to improve your lifestyle. And at that point, if it's 10x, maybe you want to spend it on a house. Or let's say it's at 10x, you want to spend it on a car or something. And then it goes 100x and you want to spend it on a house. and then it goes 1,000x, and you want to spend it on a yacht or a jet or something, like to enjoy your life, to improve your life in some way. And I think that's the way that it's going to go. His question there, he was saying, what does the adoption look like going forward? I think more people are going to see Bitcoiners who have built wealth with it and who are enjoying their lives, and they're going to want to do the same for themselves. I think that's where the adoption comes from. And then on top of that, the people who create services and products, they're going to demand Bitcoin. And I think that's going to take some time. That's going to probably take a decade or two. But at some point, people are not going to want fiat, because fiat can be created out of thin air. And all of this, keep in mind that all of this is over a long time horizon, right? This is over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And it's going to take some time, because it takes time for people to actually adopt new forms of money. Because what you're doing is you're putting your life into it. I wasn't willing to put my money into Bitcoin until I really understood it, because my money is the past energy that I used, and I created something of value, and I got dollars in exchange for that. And now I want to exchange those dollars for Bitcoin, because I understand that Bitcoin is better money, and that's going to take time on its own, right? It takes 4 or 5 years for somebody to really start understanding Bitcoin and really figuring it out and understanding all the nuances. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take years and decades. And the good thing is that in that time, the price will continue to go up. So if you own Bitcoin, if you keep dollar cost averaging, you're going to do really well.
Yeah, it's about balances, right? It's about, if you have a large balance of Bitcoin, it starts to become inconvenient for you to buy things that without being able to just use your Bitcoin, right? There's a friction point there of having to transfer it back into a fiat system that you probably don't like at this point of understanding it. You don't want to participate in it, right? If you use the fiat system, you're perpetuating its existence. And I think for now, there's sort of a benefit to perpetuate it, because you understand that other people are willing to accept these worse dollars or this worse money, right? And that's Gresham's law, which is that bad money pushes out good money, right? And people hoard the good money and will spend the bad money. But there's a point where it starts to not make sense to even go back into that system if you're all in. And so I think there's a lot of things with Bitcoin adoption where it will just naturally incentivize it to be used as a medium of exchange. So if you have a larger balance of it, you're now saying, well, I don't want to have to transfer back to fiat. I want to just spend it. You start asking the people that you pay for things for, your barber, your carpenter, hey, will you accept Bitcoin instead, right? So it's just sort of natural there. And then there's a lot of business owners. Again, just anybody starting a business. I like Bitcoin. This might mean I might get more customers. I'm going to, again, not have the friction point of having to exchange this and pay an exchange fee and all of this kind of stuff. I can just accept Bitcoin right away. So it's just, as Bitcoin grows, like, people are sort of like worried, oh, it's not used as money. It's not used as money. It's not a medium of exchange. It sort of just all grows as it becomes more adopted. And it's not something to necessarily like worry about. There's definitely actions you can take. You can go ask people if they accept it. You can, like, basically here locally, I've created a little community where we onboard businesses, and it's a small little thing that we do, and it ends up leaving some Bitcoin at these businesses, and their balances grow, and it becomes more important to them, and it's sort of orange pilling from the other way, from the business side. But I think just naturally it's just going to do that as it continues to grow.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say on it quick, so we can keep getting to other questions, is just, the older crowd, generally speaking, doesn't care, right? The older crowd, we talk about the boomers and we give them a hard time and things like that, but generally speaking, they've done pretty well, right? So they don't care. The older, the gerontocracy that runs things actually as well, they don't care either. And at the same time, a lot of that wealth is up there. And you can just go look at the stats. I think it was the same time the baby boomers they were the same age as the millennials or Zoomers. They had like 20% of American wealth and the nation's wealth in America. And I'm sure this goes through a lot of the Western countries. And now that same cohort has 5% of around 5% of the nation's wealth. So what younger person has the money to actually go and spend? There's very few people. And so a lot of this is just like duration mismatch or like time horizons. Like everyone talks in different time horizons because everyone's different ages, they have different needs in life. So like, well, I can't use it right now. I can't do this. And it's just, it takes time, and it's going to take time for this wealth transfer, the demographic shift, AI, the power laws, all these different things to play out. And like you guys have said, it all kind of plays out in the next 10 to 20 years, next couple of decades, where now the younger generation has it. The business owners are younger. The people in the halls of power are younger. And they're like, yeah, this is obvious. And we've also had more black swans. I mean, look, the CBO, I think I probably talked about this before, but in the American government here, they said, hey, it's gonna be $63 trillion in debt. It's $39 trillion right now. In 10 years from now, that's sans any more wars, which we never go to war here, so that might not be a problem, right? And any other black swans. And we've already got climate style lockdowns and things being talked about around the world. So that's sans any more money printing, like just natural stuff. So it's inevitable at the end of the day, but people want it right now. I want it right now. I want everyone to see it right now. I want this to be obvious. I want to flip the system right now. And it's hard. And this is why we get on here every day. So I don't go insane and I don't drive the people right around me crazy. And I can feel a little more, normal.
Can we just pause for a second? People are saying in the comments, we want one place where we can join for the call. Everybody subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to Bitcoin Mastermind. I'm gonna share the link in mine.
Good call.
I think I can only share it from my chat. I guess you guys share it in your chats as well. But subscribe to the channel because eventually we're only going to be posting it in that one group. So we're not in that one channel. We're not going to be streaming from all of our channels. Yeah. So subscribe to that channel. I just shared the link in the chat. Forrest shared it as well.
So like this is a perfect example of what happens with Bitcoin stuff. Because that's what I was going to say is like the medium of exchange aspect of Bitcoin isn't going to be driven by the consumer. It's going to be driven by the business owner. And in this case, VHF's asking for us to go to our new channel. But so pretend in this situation, VHF's walking into a store, he's the consumer, we're the business owner. We're not going to make that switch because nobody has taken the time to subscribe over there. It doesn't make sense for us to do that, right? Like from our perspective, it just doesn't make sense. Because there's how many people are watching right now, Robin, between the different channels?
I can show you the exact numbers. So I think right now BTC Mastermind have about 18 people watching, and we have on all other channels combined 230. And I think that's kind of the difference. And that's why we do it that way, because imagine like if we didn't cross promote and stream on all the channels, we would probably have now like 5 people watching, or like maybe 0, something like that. And so that was the plan from the beginning, to have like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, whatever period makes sense, where we cross promote everything. And at some point we just like, hey, let's just like use that one channel, because as I don't know what is the name was of the guy. I agree, like it's whack to have like to stream on 7 different channels on YouTube. It's not a good thing, because there's a lot of things that's wrong with that. But the one thing that you kind of have to do is to promote it, because I think everyone agrees, even the audience agrees, it's better to have 200 people listening to the Bitcoin content than like 2 people. It's a way more efficient. And so we slowly have to kind of ease into that. And you made an interesting analogy like to fiat payments there.
Well, it's the same kind of thing. It's like it doesn't make sense for us to do it because there's not enough demand. If there was 230 people watching over the Bitcoin Mastermind YouTube channel right now, we'd probably switch in the next 5 minutes. Yeah. Just like if everybody was lining up outside to pay in Bitcoin, the business owner would probably start accepting Bitcoin, but it's just not the case. And so what I think is going to play out here is that the business owners over time, we talked about the green lights earlier, like these awakenings happening around the world in terms of the fiat system, Bitcoin, the alternatives, those are going to keep turning on. They're not going to shut off. And I think that once some of those green lights start to be business owners or the people who are providing the most value to society or their local market or whatever, they're going to start accepting Bitcoin, and they're going to say, hey, unless you pay me in Bitcoin, you got to go somewhere else, because I don't want this shit. Just like Robin said, why would I take my time and go through the pain of converting fiat into Bitcoin? Bitcoin's what I want to hold. So it has to be the business owner that has to want that before we see a real change in this. But as a Bitcoiner who lived through, $15,000 Bitcoin to $126,000 Bitcoin, I was spending some of my Bitcoin for sure. And it wasn't like going into a business and saying, hey, I want to pay in Bitcoin. It was going to Bit Refill and buying a gas card for $100 with my Bitcoin. Or it was going to Amazon. Instead of paying in fiat with my credit card, I bought a gift card on Bit Refill with my Bitcoin. So there's still kind of options right now, even before businesses start to do that. But I think there's a massive opportunity, kind of what Forrest was saying there, is like if I was in the US right now, I would be going to every single business in my local area and telling them, hey, your Square terminal now accepts Bitcoin. You should promote that because you're probably going to get more customers. You don't have to keep Bitcoin, but if you want to learn more about it, go here. And I'd probably create my own school community. I'd say, I don't know, Gotham City, Idaho, business for Bitcoiners. I would just create a free group and give them the resources. If they want to hire you for a couple hours to help them with it, there you go. That's a business idea in your local area because of Jack Dorsey flipping the switch and letting every business in the US accept Bitcoin. I just think it's a massive opportunity there for people.
I think right now, though, I feel like right now it's not the right time to spend your Bitcoin. And I have my own reason for that. The reason is that at this point, Bitcoin is still valued in fiat. So it's still undervalued. Why would you sell something that's undervalued? Like if you have a stock where you expect it to double or triple or 10x in the next year, why would you sell it? I think that's exactly the same thing with Bitcoin. If you expect it to keep going up, I mean, and you don't have the kinds of, let's say you're not financially free yet. Why would you spend your Bitcoin? You're basically just selling it and you're giving it to Strategy. You're giving it to BlackRock. You're giving it to Morgan Stanley, who just came out with their Bitcoin ETF, and they're going to be buying as much as they can. So why spend it right now? That's the way that I look at it. Maybe I'm thinking of that wrong, but the way that I look at it, I plan to hold it. Sorry, go ahead.
If you're spending it, you're not giving it to MSTR necessarily. If that business accepts Bitcoin, you're leaving that Bitcoin there, which is beneficial because now you're increasing the balance of that business's Bitcoin. It's the reason for it's not a selfish reason to spend your Bitcoin right now, because I 100% agree with you. It's underpriced, it's undervalued. It doesn't make sense, but it might make sense if that's all you have, because you're all in on Bitcoin. But
the way that I look at it, even with Square, on the terminal, if the company doesn't opt in to just receive Bitcoin, you still pay with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I think it gets sold automatically and they get dollars. So
you're right about that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't personally see it as something that I want to use as a medium of exchange yet. Like what EIJI Fuller said, AG Fuller, they said there's no need to use it as a medium of exchange yet. Right now, it's a store of value and it's proving itself as a store of value. It's going to take some time.
It's just value, though. That's what it is. Like I've explained this before, I think, but like if I owe Rajat $50, I'm sending him $50 worth of value regardless of how I pay him.
Yes.
I could send him $50 in Bitcoin. I could send him $50 in fiat. If I sent him the Bitcoin, I could take my $50 in fiat and buy more Bitcoin. So it doesn't really matter, I don't think, how you're paying for it. You're still giving somebody value on the other end of it. You're still going to be out $50 worth of value, whether that's fiat or Bitcoin. So I'm a proponent of using Bitcoin, even though I agree it's incredibly undervalued. But again, you could still pay in Bitcoin, then take the $50 you would have saved if you would have paid in fiat and just buy Bitcoin with it. I know it's a little bit more work. I know it's an extra step, whatever. But it's still kind of, we need to do these things for this thing to play out. We can't just hope that it happens because one day people will want to do it. You know what I mean?
The tax implications of it too, like there's slight inefficiencies with it all. But
for sure.
The tax implication of using your Bitcoin as a medium of exchange is, I think it's intentional. I think it's intentionally trying to restrict the use case of this thing. Like if there was no tax implication of this, you spend and replace, right? As your fiat comes in, you get Bitcoin, you spend your Bitcoin, and then spend and replace. So I mean, it doesn't. I agree with Jor there, where you're sending value. I think the problem becomes when you don't have fiat to replace it, because then you're spending value that is very volatile in the short term and potentially buying back at a higher price to replace it. So it becomes inefficient there potentially.
But what's the alternative there? If you don't have fiat to spend, then you can't buy the thing that you were going to buy.
You shouldn't be buying it anyway, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, but it's just $50 worth of, you know what I mean? Like,
what about what about I think the Bitcoin line of credit, what Strike's doing, which again, this is why it takes time, because it's been only 17 years. And so these products, and this was the one thing I was going to say earlier too, was I'm a big believer that the first 5, 6, 7 years, not a ton of those people, and this is just my own opinion, were necessarily entrepreneurs that got into Bitcoin, right? You have cypherpunks, you've got people that were lucky, whatever. Well, now we're seeing the cohort of entrepreneurs the next 10 years getting into Bitcoin. And that's going to lead you to a world where the next 10 years going forward, those entrepreneurs are going to have a lot of wealth. Clearly, when we're talking about businesses getting Bitcoin, other entrepreneurs, all of us, getting Bitcoin. Well, guess what we're going to be doing over the next 10 to 20 years? Building businesses on the Bitcoin wealth that you accumulated. So guess where all the new stuff, because me, I look around, I'm like, how come Jack Dorsey's the only one, creating these big, massive things? Well, he's the guy that has the most amount of fiat wealth. You have a Sailor, some of these guys, there's a few people out there, Tether, starting to do things. These things will come over time, but it's the time converts more than reason, type of phenomenon. It just takes time, and you have enough amount of Bitcoiners with enough wealth to produce more products, goods, and services going forward in the next decade or two. So it's a very convoluted, it's simplistic, but it's not easy to explain in 1 second, to give someone like a 1 second answer. And so going back to the Bitcoin line of credit, some of these things are just these novel things that are coming out where, to your guys' point, the conversions are happening in the background, but you could just take out debt. If you were going to be smart with your debt, you could just take out debt, from my understanding, the entire time, pay it down month after month when your paycheck actually comes in. So you're not incurring, so like Forrest, the de minimis, all this stuff, for sure, intentional, but there are multiple ways around this. You talked about bit refill, Jor. There's many ways around this in the Bitcoin line of credit coming, where you can do this on a monthly basis, never incur any taxes because you're using debt the entire time. Then you pay it down once you get your paycheck immediately, and the thing just starts month after month, and you just keep, rinse and repeat. So there are a lot of answers for things if you want to do the work or not. But the long-term answer is, the tools are coming. It's just, it takes time.
Yeah, and I think the timing is a big part of it too. Like you guys all kind of alluded to this, and it makes sense. Like when Bitcoin was up, I was very happy to spend my Bitcoin. I haven't done it much lately because why would I? It's I guess in the sense of saying that even when I say it's worth it when the price is higher. So when we're thinking about this tax stuff and kind of just like the burden of doing it, it's not worth it when I'm going to lose money on it or lose, the exchange rate. If I'm going to be down on that, it doesn't make much sense for me to go through the hassle of potentially being taxed on it, of having to take 5 minutes and buy a gift card. I'd rather just keep those sats. But like when the price is going up, I'm like, well, it makes sense. Even if I got to pay a little bit of tax on this right now, even if it takes me 5 minutes, I have these sats from 6 months ago that have now doubled in value. That's worth it for me to spend some of those sats and buy something with it, and then hold on to my fiat for times like this. It's all timing based on what you need personally, what the fiat exchange rate is. And I think that there's no one size fits all for everybody. I think it's just depending on where you are, what the laws are, depending what the fiat exchange rate of Bitcoin's doing. Lots of different factors, I think, depending on how tech savvy you are, being able to buy a gift card with Bitcoin, use Lightning or Liquid first, so it's a little bit more private, things like that. There's a lot to it, I think. It's not just you should do it or you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, and there's so many implications of that because I actually switched a little bit. I was very much of the side, I just want to have 100% of Bitcoin and I just spend my Bitcoin. Yeah. It's fine with that. Now I'm seeing more and more the value of having some cash buffer and spending that. And so, I'm in a very unusual situation where I have fiat income and Bitcoin income, and both are like it's like almost 50-50, not quite 50-50, which is kind of nice because I have fiat expenditures. Like one of my team members on my podcast, he takes Bitcoin. I'll pay him in Bitcoin. I get the Bitcoin from a sponsor. I pay him, a team member, directly in Bitcoin, and it's magical. It's nice because it's 3 different continents. I'm on a different continent than the team member. Then the sponsor is 3 different continents, and it just doesn't matter because I have the Bitcoin address, and we just like it's super easy to do. And in that sense, it's like such an amazing thing. But then there are companies that can't pay me in Bitcoin. Or they have some weird compliance thing, or they have something they're like, oh, like we would love to pay you in Bitcoin, but hey, we have the EU behind us and they have this compliance things and we can only pay you in euros right now. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Like, it's not you, it's the EU, I guess. And then it's also nice to have euros because then I can just stay in euros and pay my people that I have to pay in euros directly in euros. And so I think this is where, like, I don't try to force Bitcoin medium of exchange adoption. I think it will come naturally as people will have a bigger portion of the wealth directly in Bitcoin as the ecosystem gets built out, as the apps and all of those things get paid out. I think it will be just a nice, like, natural progression of that as people adopt more and more Bitcoin.
Yeah, the way that I think of it is, if somebody doesn't want Bitcoin, I'm not going to force them to take it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay them in Bitcoin if I expect that they're going to sell it and get dollars back. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'd rather just hold on to it and give them the dollar, get rid of the middleman, just hold on to the Bitcoin.
That's the other part of it too, though. Like the variables that I was talking about, that's a big variable in it, in the sense of, if you're somebody who's just buying Bitcoin as a DCA every week, and that's kind of like your long-term savings, and all those sats are KYC'd, it makes a little bit less sense to be spending that Bitcoin. But if you have a business that accepts Bitcoin from other people, either on Lightning, Liquid, whatever, I feel more comfortable doing that, because I don't really need to say why I feel that way, but that's the reality of things. Like, I feel better. What's going on here? Oh, sorry, boys. I'm missing out on the chat. I got a notification. I'll shut up.
No. Keep going.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, it just, sorry. I thought let's keep going longer for sure. There's a lot that goes into it. Everybody's in a unique situation. You know, I agree with Robin in the sense that it's just going to happen over time, organically, as people see the need to accept Bitcoin. The businesses will drive it. And eventually, if you want to buy something from a business that only accepts Bitcoin, you're going to have to learn how to buy Bitcoin. That's just simple as that.
Yeah, I think this is the interesting direction. It's not like, hey, I want to pay someone in Bitcoin. I think the other way it's going to be where businesses say, hey, I only take Bitcoin. And there is, I don't know if this is a thing outside of Vienna also, but in Vienna, in coffees, you have to almost always pay cash. They rarely take credit card. And it's a massive city. And it's just a culture there. It's just a thing there, and they only take the cash. There are, of course, coffees in Vienna that take credit card, but those who do, they don't like it. They kind of look at you weirdly if you say card, and most of them just say like, no, it's just cash. Also, Chinese places, if you get like Chinese food, they all take only cash. And so I think this will slowly happen where people like, hey, I want Bitcoin. Like, it's a hustle to take fiat. I have to get an exchange account. I have to exchange it. Like, I want to have my Bitcoin. Like, why I don't want to deal with that fiat thing. And I don't know if this thing, what I think BTC Session is famous for saying that and doing that, giving a premium on if you want to pay with fiat, that might just be something. If you're a Bitcoiner and you value Bitcoin, like, give a discount for if you want to pay give a premium if you want to pay in fiat. I think Bitcoin Prague, a lot of Bitcoin companies actually do that, where they like, hey, we have Bitcoin prices and we have fiat prices. You get a discount in Bitcoin or a premium in fiat, however you want to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I do that with my business. I think that's part of the incentive. Like, there's also something called Thier's law. Like I mentioned Gresham's law earlier. Thier's law is, regardless of legal tender laws, as a producer of goods and services, you demand a different currency than the current legal tender currency. And it's because the other one is worth less, right? You don't want to accept the fiat as a business owner because you want something of equal value for the goods and services you're creating. And by having that discount paid in Bitcoin or the premium paid in fiat, that is the business owner saying, hey, I would rather accept this. And because I would rather accept it, I'm willing to accept less value of it for the same service. So yeah, I mean, it all plays out in every way that we've talked about. It's all going to be this huge combination of everything, just leading to it becoming more of a medium of exchange over time. But it does have to make sense. And as an individual, you can make that choice. Like, I went to PubKey and bought a hot dog with Bitcoin. It's just fun, like it's a fun experience. I know that $15 of a couple hot dogs that I bought is going to cost me way more looking back at it. But I'll accept that, right? Just because I wanted to experience what it was like to pay. But I think that eventually there'll be a reality where, I just rather be able to spend my money and not contribute to the fiat system at all. And the business is also saying, great, I will actually incentivize you in some way to spend this money, this Bitcoin, and give you a discount in some way.
It'll probably be a bimetallism type of world going forward too for a long time. Like the governments aren't going to just willingly and easily give up their power to print. So the beauty of Bitcoin is that you have this auditing mechanism and you have this thing that you have a control in the experiment now. And we've never had that. There's been, gold and silver were close, the closest things we had to this perfect measurement. And we have it now in order to be this reference guide to what's actually happening. And this is why the UBI talk is so big, CBDC talk. Like if you're using the government trash tokens, then you're going to get whatever the government's going to do, right? So like we're rapidly diverging into these two worlds of Bitcoin and freedom, and you get to choose your adventure, or the government's going to choose for you if you don't get into this new network, because they're not going to just give it away. They're not going to say, it might be worthless, 10 years from now and go down another 99% or whatever, but they're still going to have the ability to do it as long as people give them that ability, which maybe ends at some point. Who knows when that does end, if it does. But at some point, 100 years from now, it'll come back around. People, this is where you look at like Argentina or Zimbabwe, some of these things, Argentina's had like 6 currencies. Like who keeps giving them the power to print money? Like you would think at some point someone would wake up and be like, yeah, you guys can't do this anymore. No, they still do it. So we're going to have this bimetallism world for a long time. I hope that we don't. I hope it's just Bitcoin someday. It's all we have. But the beauty is focusing on ourselves, our family, our own mindset, taking care of what's right around us, putting ourselves on a Bitcoin standard, getting prepared, because that's the only way out of this. Planning on the government doing something is literally the worst way. Jim Rohn, one of my favorite, we talked about Bob Proctor the other day, right, George? But Jim Rohn always used to say, if you plan on government, you can divide your retirement by 5 at the end of life. But if you plan, through yourself, you can multiply by 5 at the end of your life. And no truer time. You can probably 10x that, 50x, either way now, 100x either way, if you let the government do it. So that's the world we're kind of going into. The sludge people are going to go one way with government, and they're going to, you see people breaking their minds with no kings protests and like all these different people, the professors on, different shows. They don't understand what's happening in the world. The world order's breaking and everything they've known. The Bretton Woods system is breaking in front of their eyes, and they don't know. Like these people are like almost helpless because they've been brainwashed for so long. And only Bitcoiners are going to survive this going forward in a healthy, sane way. And that's the choice we have going forward.
It's that meme of the drawing of the guy in the corner at the party saying they don't know that Bitcoin's going to take over and they're going to be sludge people.
Literally.
Yeah, there's a comment on from Satoshi's Solution in the chat. So the price of real estate will drop dramatically. This is hard to believe. It will need to last 50 years to transfer it. If you're measuring it in Bitcoin, it's been going down for the last 10 years, significantly measured in Bitcoin. So it's the same as everything else, I think. And yeah.
Okay, George, it'll go up. This is so in Bitcoin terms, George, what George is saying is, yes, it's been going down for 17, 16 years, right? But it'll keep going up in fiat. Someone has the meme, from the last, couple of cycles where the Bitcoin price keeps getting, 1/10 every time the price of a medium-sized home. And it keeps going up by 100,000. In US dollars. So yeah, it's going to go, a home will cost, $1 million, then it'll be $10 million to acquire the median size home, but it'll be 0.1 Bitcoin to acquire that. And that's the reframing I think everyone has to really start going through, and the lens they need to look at their net worth. If you're looking at your net worth, you're looking at everything. You have to denominate in Bitcoin. You can do it in dollars too, but you got to do it. You have to do it in Bitcoin, or else you're going to completely miss it.
Yeah. I think sorry, go ahead, Robin.
No, go ahead, you.
I was just going to say the last thing I wanted to say on that with what were we talking about before now? Sorry.
We're talking the medium exchange, and we're talking.
Oh yeah, that's kind of my biggest fear, honestly, is that like we've been talking about the fact that more and more people are seeing the corruption in the fiat system. And I fear that there's going to be an easy, convenient option that's kind of put in the middle here that says, hey, this isn't fiat anymore. You can use this. It's accepted with Visa. You don't have to switch your MasterCard account. You can just start using this token, which you can hold, which is going to store your value, because fiat's trash. Because they're at the point now, governments are at that point where they're just going to have to start admitting how shitty the currency is, because they're going to have some solution of what's going to come next. And my biggest fear is that people are going to find that solution, whatever the government provides them, before they get to Bitcoin. Because right now, as things are going, they're going to find Bitcoin. They'll eventually get back to Bitcoin, but it's just going to take longer, because that intermediary there is going to say, hey, we got a better option than fiat. Fiat sucks. Our old currency sucks.
You'll be extorted.
Here's a new one for you.
You want this stimmy check? You're going to download our app.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. That's absolutely coming. No doubt about it.
Or if you don't do what we want you to do, you're not going to get the check.
Correct. That's whatever it is. Health ID, digital ID, passport, right? Like, yeah, so true. So I know Forrest and Rajat, you guys have to go soon in a few minutes. So I would love your thoughts. I saw another good question someone had, and it was about deflation. Someone said, I think it was Dill Pickle, had said, wouldn't a Bitcoin system lead to deflation and incredible unemployment due to no one being able to take risk for business innovation or investments? So before you guys leave, I would love your guys' thoughts on that. You guys think really well in that space.
I don't think that you can't take risk because Bitcoin is deflationary. If anything, Bitcoin's getting me to take more risks, because I know that Bitcoin is stable. I know that it'll have it. I know that it'll be there. That stability gives me the ability to take even more risk. So I don't quite agree. And I'm just, I don't know when it'll happen, but I'm assuming that, let's say, for example, Bitcoin goes to $50 million. I'm sure all of us here, or even a lot of the people in the chat, even if somebody has like 0.1 Bitcoin, they're going to have so much money that they're not going to know what to do with it. $5 million at that point is going to be a lot of money, because you're not just going to have it sitting in your wallet. You're going to want to do something with it. And then I think that's going to lead to people taking more risks to get more Bitcoin. So I don't quite agree. Also, the fact that wages go down in terms of Bitcoin contribute to more employment, because employers can hire more people.
The way I look at it is, this is sort of framed in a way of looking at it through the fiat lens and the current system that we have. And deflation in this current system destroys it, right? You cannot have deflation. And that alone makes you realize that it's incredibly unstable. If you can't have a world where we have a deflationary currency, which is something that I believe is natural to have, then you've built something that shouldn't exist, that should be broken. And so the idea of there's lots of innovation that has happened from sort of all of this crazy investment because of the money printer and stuff. There's also been a huge amount of malinvestment, a bunch of wasted money, a bunch of wasted energy, time. And essentially what I'm saying there is that system is unsustainable. So regardless of any sort of positives we've gotten from innovation, from easy money, right? Like we had a zero interest rate policy environment, and it led to massive startups and ICOs and NFTs and all this crap that just really hasn't really amounted to very much, right? Like, what do we have? Taxis, but you call them from your phone instead through an app. Really not that innovative. Like, it's a huge thing, but it's really not that innovative. And obviously it was going to happen eventually at some point. And it was really just sort of, how do we get around the regulation and capture that the yellow cabs have? So it's the way I see it is, if something's not sustainable, then it should be allowed to fail. And something sustainable will be built up on top of something that is fixed in issuance and something that is predictable. That is Bitcoin. And it's hard to predict. Will we have more or less innovation built on something sustainable like that? It's hard to say, I would say, but it will definitely last a lot longer, and it will definitely not be unstable and lead to massive collapses every 4 8 years or whatever, that we have with depressions and recessions that are extractive to the individual and destroying the middle class. Like, we will have sustained growth as opposed to exponential growth and bust. That's just the way I see it based on Bitcoin, which makes a lot more sense.
I see it a lot more extreme than I think the saying we need inflation for the economy to work, or we need a central institution to steal purchasing power from all of us so we can have a working economy, it's just a central banking lie. That whole thing is so Keynesian and such a, like, for me, that's a lie that keeps the scam going. that's all for me it is. And you can see, like, which company makes better decisions and makes a better product, the one that has massive capital saved up because they live on a Bitcoin standard, they are sound money, or the one that is in debt and has to make results every single month? Like, it's not even close. Like, the whole reason why I'm now having the company and being way more free is because I saved up for 6 years while I was working Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin stack gave me the freedom to quit my job and say, hey, even if I don't make money, I will still be fine. So on an individual basis, on a company basis, on a country basis, it's always better to have saved up capital to deploy in interesting ideas and innovations. The whole, like, I think it's just like a very high IQ stupid lie that the central bankers are telling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true. Yeah, it's opposite too. And like, I love that you were saying that for us, because that's like, I was just thinking this other day, I was like, what invention have we had over the last 100 years? Like, when we were on sound money, we had cars, planes, the train, like electricity, like, and there's been nothing. It's just the bedroom mousetraps the last 100 years since central banks have come in. Like, there's been almost no invention. It's been just iteration. That's it. Like, how can I build how many iPhones are we get? Like, that's maybe the one thing. Like, I don't even know what you could say out there. So I love that. It's just like you said, Robin, it's a complete lie. That is Keynesian lie that's been sold to us. And we all believe it because we're fish in the water. And if you're in the water, how do you know you're wet?
Yeah. All right, guys. Awesome stream. I'm going to take off. Thank you. Thanks everyone in the chat as well. And see you guys next week.
See you, buddy.
Brother. Be good.
Later, guys.
Hey, see you, Rajat. Take it easy.
Be good, brother.
You too. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
I think my thoughts on this. Whoa, my God. I think my thoughts on this is, I kind of look at it as like, I mean, they're totally different. One fiat goes down forever, one currency goes down forever, one currency goes up forever. And if you think about businesses, just think about an individual right now who's trying to save for a down payment in a house. So let's say you're 25 years old and you've kind of scoped out the housing prices in your area, and you're like, okay, I need $25,000 to get a down payment so I can buy a house. Based on my income, based on my expenses, it's going to take me about 10 years. Well, by the time you get to that milestone, the $25,000 that you saved is worth significantly less because the housing prices have doubled. So you have to keep saving, and you can't do what you otherwise would have done. You have to keep saving because that currency is melting. Versus the flip side, it's like maybe it's shortcutted from 10 years to 3 years because you're saving in a currency that actually appreciates based on its fixed supply and ever increasing demand. So I think the main theme around what we've been talking about for the last half hour is just like, you can choose today to start measuring your life and storing your life in Bitcoin versus fiat. One's trending downwards forever and will never stop trending downwards, and one's going up forever, assuming nothing crazy happens. So I don't know. I know there's one certainty there. One's a probability or a probably. I'm putting all my chips in the probability side of things, and I want to hold the thing that's going to go up over time versus melt forever. So from a business perspective, it's the same kind of thing. You might be saving up for a new machine or a new building or a new whatever. Hire somebody. If it takes you 5 years in fiat, maybe it takes you 2 years in Bitcoin. It kind of just shortcuts the whole thing. Kind of what Robin said. Without Bitcoin, he wouldn't be doing this live stream right now. If he was saving in fiat, he wouldn't be sitting here today. And it's the same for individuals, business owners, because businesses just are individuals.
So true. That was such a great example, Robin, because it's something that I've seen in my own life as well. And you talked about it so well. It's hard to explain. And it's something we theorize about to a degree, and we talk to people about. But we need to start using those stories even more, because that really can shape people much more than us, obviously, just talking to them and sharing our story instead. So I love that. And it's such a great example of like when there's abundance and things are way cheaper because you're on a Bitcoin stand. That's the thing too. It's like AI is already taking job loss. Job losses are going like crazy. It's only going to keep going. So what's going to buffer you from all that? And the Bitcoin that you do have left, even if you were kind of saying this too, like even if I don't make money, this is like the greatest point of all of it. Even if I don't make money and life is still getting cheaper all around me because of this abundance, energy abundance, whatever's going on, and I didn't make any more and I'm spending down my Bitcoin, what you had left still gains in purchasing power. So theoretically, you could live off that Bitcoin forever without even doing anything. Now, I would suggest, depending on your age, hopefully you're doing something to provide value and replenish that low sats. But theoretically, again, that purchasing power keeps going up year after year, cycle after cycle in Bitcoin. So you could just never make more after 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, and you could just live on whatever's left forever. So does it play out in practice like that? Depending on your stack and what's going on and how you live, of course, but it's an interesting case study as to these things really playing out in real time.
Yeah, and like two things. The first thing is I like to bring it down to individuals and to smaller things like individuals or companies, because what the experts always do is they talk in very big and vague terms, and then it can make sense. Yeah, we have to stimulate the economy to get more money in, so we have more employment and all of that. Like if someone can speak good and brings those arguments, it can sound to most people like an awesome thing. And if you then bring down like, okay, which company makes more money, the one that is completely indebted or the one that has a strong capital base? It's a very clear choice. And even simpler, if you are an individual highly indebted, like you have like 300,000 in student loan debt and like 200,000 from a car, like whatever you're doing, you are way more desperate to do whatever it takes to make some money. That's not a good position to be innovative, to be long-term thinking. That's the formula for disaster, just to make short-term gains. Like that's like, let's make it to next quarter, next month, next week, next day, and not like how can we scale that up for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And that's how I approach it, because I live on it's always like weird to say I live on a Bitcoin standard, because I still do fiat things. I still have that I want to completely pay off because I can't pay it off all at once. I still transact in fiat. Like there's a lot of fiat things still in my life, but like having that capital base, having like 80+% or 90+% of your net worth in Bitcoin really empowers you. And the funny thing is, for my example, just to close that loop, I've never had to sell a single sat for the business. It always evened out somehow. I always made the monthly payment from the very first month. And luckily, in the beginning, I had a lot of luck, and it's a whole nother podcast. But
That's awesome.
But the stack gave me the confidence to do that. Without the stack, I wouldn't have even done that. And that's, I think, the main difference there.
Yeah, I kind of had the same story, honestly, not quite to the same extent, but I never would have left my job if I didn't have Bitcoin. I looked at it as kind of my insurance policy, honestly. And I wasn't as fortunate as you, Robin. I had to spend some right off the hop, and it kind of killed me because I bought at the top and then I had to sell some at the bottom just to kind of, pay the bills. Yep. But that's what it was there for. And I think that people really need to see Bitcoin for what it is. And that's what it is. It's a savings account. And if you have capital that you're not going to need for the next 6 months, it doesn't make sense to be anywhere other than Bitcoin for those reasons. So of course it's going to go up. Of course we all want to be rich. Of course this and that. But the main thing that it does is it just retains the purchasing power. I know for a fact that my dollar tomorrow is going to be worth less than my dollar today. It's impossible not to. We're at that stage. We're at late stage fiat right now. And so it was Bitcoin, because without that, I probably would still be working a job right now, because the fiat system is much different. You're living and earning in a currency that goes down forever. So you just have to keep working harder and harder, and you never get a chance to take a breath. But with Bitcoin, it's like, okay, well, I got this thing. I'm going to do my best here. I want to earn an income. I don't want to have to spend that Bitcoin or sell that Bitcoin. So I'm going to fight like hell so I don't have to. But if I need to tap into that, it's there. and it's not going to be worth half of what it is in a year from now, because it's sound money, it's hard money, it's different.
To the question that like ERA 2530 I was asking, it's really interesting actually. Would you guys be able to stack more sats with your old fiat job? For me, I actually have to answer different. I think yes. Like right now not, but I've gone, like especially in the beginning, it was for me like I can just cover my expenses kind of a thing for like very long time, and I worked a lot more. So if I would have spent the same hours working somewhere in a fiat industry, I probably would have stacked, especially in the first 1.5 years, more Bitcoin, and now less. But who cares? Like why are we accumulating money? Like I want to just be free. Like I build shit. And build fun things and build shit and do things, like waking up everything. Like I have periods in my life where I wake up in the 3 a.m. and I have an idea and I just do that. And it usually turns out to be a shitty idea because it was 3 a.m. But it's so fun to be in that mood of just like having to just being able to build something and not being like, oh, I have to go to work at like 9, so I cannot wake up at 3. I just woke up at 3, built till like 10 in the morning, and then I can take a nap because I can. And so like being flexible, having that freedom and being like, it's a whole different thing. I've never thought that, but it really empowers creativity in a whole different way and makes brain connections that I didn't have before. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's so true. There's so many different ways to look at it, and you only get to go down the rabbit hole even further. It's just it's this positive sum flywheel that Bitcoin creates, that when you have the time to jump off the hamster wheel, you get to start theorizing. So like 15, 18 years ago, when I got into real estate and when I was leaving and retiring from playing hockey, I really got into Robert Kiyosaki, and I was telling Jordan this, Bob Proctor, personal development, all this stuff. And I went down those rabbit holes. And Robert Kiyosaki used to talk about this, and this was, the stuff I would watch was pre-Bitcoin, and so real estate to me was probably the best thing you could do, and you can do some of the things in business that you can do in real estate, whether it's flipping businesses or rehabbing businesses, leverage buyouts. Carl Icahn, anyone who's familiar with him, did this a lot. But taking properties and you raise money from other people. You have no money in the deal. You fix up the property. You put a tenant in there, rent it out, and now you have an asset. And then when you refinance it, you pull all the money out, give it back to the investors, and you have an asset and making you cash flow every single month. And you have no money in the deal, or at least theoretically. Sometimes it might happen, maybe not. Maybe you get a check. You might get a check at closing, and you made money with other people's money, on top of it at closing too. So there's really cool stuff. But he would say, the more real estate I buy, the more time I have. And then the more time I have, the more real estate I get to buy. And it was just like this perfect, as the cash flow built and grew and grew and grew. And now we have Bitcoin. And one of the reasons I left real estate was because I was doing it for myself, and I was helping investors and a handful of people. And I was helping some tenants and residents and make a good place for them to live. But then you realize, well, again, I'm going to be Marty McFly in Back to the Future 2, and I'm going to have a shotgun in my car just to get gas because the wealth gap is getting out of control. No one's doing what I'm doing. The amount of time, energy, attention, capital, experience, knowledge, all this stuff that I had to have just to do what I was doing. You realize, oh my gosh, like no one else can do this. And then at that time, as I'm realizing that after 5, 6, 7, 8 years of doing it, I was really starting to grok Bitcoin, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the answer. Like, this is how the guy can either be a lawyer or be a real estate guy or dig ditches or be a plumber, electrician, work at McDonald's, work at Tim Hortons, the coffee shop, and he can save more than he spends and get ahead in life, because that's literally impossible in the fiat system as it currently stands. And that was one of those mind-blowing moments for me 10 years ago where I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is literally insane. And so now you don't have to be Robert Kiyosaki or Grant Cardone or, Donald Trump or, some entrepreneur, Warren Buffett, where like I'm buying businesses and I'm flipping them and all this knowledge, experience, and there's a lot that goes into that. And so now you can do whatever you're doing, going back to this job question, whatever job it is, no matter what, if you save more than you spend, then you can save in the hardest asset, the hardest protocol, the hardest money known to humans ever in all of human history. And then the more Bitcoin you have and the wealthier you become, the more time you have. You step off the hamster wheel, you get to go think more, you're spending more time with your family, you're going down these rabbit holes in your mind, and you start realizing things that you've never, ever had the time to even experience before. And I don't know where I shared the story the other day, but it was somebody that was sharing the story of, he was like, I got to retire my parents because of Bitcoin this last, 5 years, 10 years. And money was always a very big financial burden to us in life. And now he's like, I literally see a different side of my parents. Like, they have a different personality because they're not worrying about money anymore. And it's because of Bitcoin, because we're stacking, it used to be cash flow, but now we're stacking Bitcoin, we're stacking sats. And now we get wealthier. They're off the hamster wheel, so they don't have this burden over them. And he's like, I kind of feel robbed because I was stolen. This childhood felt stolen from me. But the overriding emotion of happiness now that we actually get that, and I actually get to see my family and the humans around me for who they really were meant to be, instead of these people burdened by fiat and the hamster wheel. It's life changing, and that's what we're here for, and that's what we want for all people. Because we could work at our old job, I could go back and do a real estate, but you realize, like, it's a zero-sum game. It's like, okay, I'm gonna kill myself doing this, like, and I might make out, a few of us, but like, again, I'm gonna need a shotgun to go get freaking gas for my car, because it's gonna be a hellscape. It's gonna be civil unrest everywhere because we keep going the wrong direction as society. So what does it matter at the end of the day? So anyway, a couple quick stories.
Well, I mean, we're only here for so long, and I think people really discount how much has actually been stolen from them through the years. Time with their parents, time with their kids, time with your friends, time with your dog, just time doing things that you enjoy doing. Like, it's incredibly rare, the fact that we're here on Earth right now, and everybody's just like, they're forced to either censor themselves or work themselves to the bone. And it's like, for what? Like, for what? 100 years from now, there's going to be a new version of us here. It's not going to be us. They're not going to know who we are. People spend their whole life working for this bullshit thing that can be printed. And like Brandon, like, yeah, I mean, a great story there, but that's how life should be. Like that's how life should be. If we didn't have the people running the world for the last 100 years, the Federal Reserve, the central bankers, the money, or what are they called? The money changers? Is that what
in the Bible, right? Yeah, the money changers. Yep.
That's what they are. That's what they've taken from us. And so for me, with Bitcoin, I think that people should spend some time in the next little while here and watch. It's about a 4-hour clip from a guy named Naval. And so just kind of following up to the backstory here of, like, would I have more money if I stayed at my fiat job, or would I have more Bitcoin? I think probably right now, but like Robin said, in 10 years from now, no, I'll have exponentially more because of doing my own thing and learning about Bitcoin and saving in Bitcoin and earning in Bitcoin, right? I get paid in Bitcoin by people, which I wouldn't be able to do at my job. But the thing that Naval said, the video is called How to Get Rich, I think, or something like that. It's a very cheesy, corny name, but it's about a 4-hour podcast. I've listened to it about 20 times. And every time I listen to it, I learn more from it. But his whole thing is like finding leverage in life. And if you're working a job, you're getting paid to be there. You have to give up your time to earn money. That's what you're trading there. But if you can start creating things, you can be going to sleep at night. If you have things in place, whether it's a podcast or a YouTube channel or a community, or you're selling your skills, the skills that you've accumulated at your job, if you can find a way to package that together and sell it to somebody, you're going to make money without you having to put in the time. That's leverage. So kind of Naval's whole thing was like, the people who are going to be rich in the next decade are going to be media, coding, and there was one more too, media, coding. I don't know, but none of them were like making products and selling them. None of them were like going to work and working a job and getting rich that way. It was always finding something that only you have, packaging that up, selling it to the world, and then you earn money without having to sacrifice your time. That's the real leverage that people need to realize. And then once you have that, it takes some time. It's a very difficult path to get there. But once you're there, then you're free. And I even said that this morning. I see Scotty in the chat here. He said that he just left his job this week. And so we were talking about that. And I said, I still remember when I quit my job in 2021. Like, it was I was so scared and anxious about, what's next. But then as soon as that day ended and I walked out of there, it was like the most freeing thing I've ever experienced before. I said it was literally like being in a cage for 30 years and somebody opened the door for me. And I don't think people who have always had a job will ever understand that until they actually walk through that door. And it's more than just money. It's getting to wake up and decide what you want to do that day. It's getting to decide who you want to spend your time with. And yeah, of course you want to make some money. You don't want to have your SAT balance go down. You want to figure out a way to kind of keep it up or at least even. But it's just a completely different life, I think, when you're doing things on your own.
Is that the podcast that I was putting up? Is that the right one?
How to Get Rich. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yep.
That looks fun. I wanna dive into that.
It's 3.5 hours long. It'll change the way you look at the world. And this was like, when was this posted, Robin? I can't really see.
6 years ago.
Smart.
Yeah, 6 years ago.
He is incredibly smart.
Yeah, I mean, he's done some shitty things. I think he came out with the crypto or not.
Mhm.
He was pumping Zcash for a while, which I don't like. But he's been in Bitcoin for 15 years. He gets it. He even talks about Bitcoin in this podcast. I wish I could think of the third thing, but it was media, coding. Coding's kind of, I think it's still very effective, but there was one more thing and I forget what it was. But yeah, that's what I mean. I've watched this 10 times and I still kind of miss some things from it. So go back and listen to it. I'm going to listen to it again. I usually listen to it like twice a year. It just changes the way you look at the world and the way you look at work.
Do you, Brandon, also have something that you like listen on a regular basis, like revisit kind of a thing? Book or like a video?
Yeah, you know what? I'm now putting me on the spot. I do for sure. So I'll think of some. But one thing I have been doing somewhat recently is going back and listening to stuff from 15, 20 years ago. And so for multiple reasons. One, to check myself in a way, right? Like triangulate position, triangulate truth, but also to see who was right, see who was wrong. Like things of that nature, predictions. I think it's fascinating now on YouTube. We're getting to this point now where there's a lot of people that are starting to have more stuff out there on YouTube. And obviously in the coming years, like everything we're saying now, 10, 20 years from now, I think one of you guys mentioned this earlier, a lot of our predictions, or just not even predictions, but like what we're saying, did these things come true? Were we operating from first principles? Were we right or wrong? Which is incredibly helpful and amazing, because I know the people that are here, whether it's us, on the in the chat, Bitcoiners in general that are here in the bear market, we're clearly people that care about stuff like that, right? So that's why we're Bitcoiners in the first place, because we, again, speaking for myself, I came from real estate. I came from gold and silver. Those are the worlds I came from politics. And I was open to seeing something else. I wasn't so closed off to say, gold and silver is the end game. Like, sorry, don't talk about anything else. I was constantly seeking truth, constantly seeking something that made more sense. If something makes more sense, then okay, let's go attack that. Let's figure it out. Let's go hit the objections. And so you eventually get down the rabbit hole of, okay, I now I'm beat. I can't change Bitcoin. It's now beaten me into submission. And it's the hardest thing I know, right? So I've been doing that a lot, going back and looking at stuff, going back and watching Andreas videos, Trace Mayer, going watching political people from 15, 20 years ago as well. You're like, you're saying to this now about Iran, or you're saying, about whatever's going on, Ukraine, but what were you saying 20 years ago? What were you saying 10 years ago? That kind of stuff fascinates me. And, as Bitcoiner, again, when we see things through a follow the money incentive or lens, I should say, I think a lot of us can figure out pretty quickly what's going on, but it's been fun to kind of just go back and check on that and see, what's happening. But the one thing, so I mentioned Robert Kiyosaki earlier, I do go back and I'll flip through, because when I read, I'm a big believer in physical books. One, just so that Marxists can't burn books, and someone has some of them. So that's part of it. But also, I like highlighting things. I love like just scribbling on the books, writing in the books, putting notes, and then going back. So again, I know some things I go back and watch from time to time, over and over, but it's a lot of like just going back and looking at books and seeing what I wrote, how my notes, how they changed, things of that nature. So I do that a fair amount.
I just write the comment, I've gone down the rabbit hole and I found a hard carrot. What do I do?
Eat it. There's nothing better than a
Bugs Bunny.
Garden carrot. Still got a little bit of dirt on it. The best.
I think one thing maybe as a closing topic for today would be the strategy thing. I saw some comments.
Saw it a couple times.
strategy, having, I think, the first day where they really accumulate some more Bitcoin from stretch again, where the thing is again activated, and people are wondering about strategy because it's down even more significant than Bitcoin in the last bear market. What kind of thoughts do you guys have? Because I think, like, I flipped on it. Like, I was not into strategy at all like half a year ago, and now I'm getting more and more warmed up to the idea that it might actually be an interesting spice for the portfolio. How do you guys think about strategy?
I've had strategy for a couple of years now. I watched it go all the way up and all the way down. I think I was like 80% up at some point, and now I'm like 40% down on it. So I think it's good. You know, it's something I think a lot about because I kind of look at it as like my insurance from the fiat system. That's how I see it. I went through a phase in life where I didn't think that the fiat system in any way would survive this, but I think that they're doing their best to transition it via tokenization and other things. So I see, again, we've talked about this a couple times recently, but like if Bitcoin wins, if Bitcoin does what we expect it to do, Saylor and Strategy are going to have more Bitcoin than anybody else on the planet, any other company, any other country, anything. And so just for me, it's like, I just want to attach my cart to that. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like buying a citizenship to this powerhouse, this future world leader, even though most people would call me crazy for saying that this company might be more powerful than China or Russia or whatever. But again, if Bitcoin wins and they're able to keep that Bitcoin safe, then it doesn't matter. You could bomb Strategy headquarters. You could do whatever you want to. You still can't take their Bitcoin. That's very powerful. And I think that actually is going to be the thing that matters most in the future. And so if that's the thing that matters most and they have the most of it, I want to be part of that. I would never sell Bitcoin to buy Strategy, but I still had some pension and some other investments in the fiat system. That's what I allocated. I don't own anything else other than Strategy because I think everything else is literally going to zero against Bitcoin. So that's how I think about it. I think it's going to do really well, and I'm excited to just be kind of on board for it. You know, like I don't have a huge allocation to it, but I like Saylor, I like Strategy, I like what they're doing, and I want to be part of it.
Saylor getting seasick with this strategy. I love it. I mean, the good part is when you have Bitcoin in cold storage, like Saylor's going to pump your bags. Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of it, right? So you don't have to worry about what Saylor's doing at the end of the day, and so that's the great part about it. And I agree with what you said too, Jor. I mean, I think he's going to be a big player in the world to come because it's Bitcoin. You know, like until or unless things change, like we said, it stays decentralized and secure. There's only one way this thing's going. The government's going to print their currency into oblivion, like all of human history has showed us. And Bitcoin is this hard, immovable object on the other side. Those two things can't coexist forever. So one has to go up, the other one has to go down. I mean, it's a very simple trade at the end of the day. But again, humans, we're emotional creatures. We don't operate logically. This is not how the game works. So we do dumb things. We sell early. We get scared. We do all this dumb stuff. All that being said, the stretch part of it, I'm not an expert in this. I had, Jor, Forrest the other day and Mason talking about this very thing on my pod, but just how do they, and maybe you have a good answer for it, Jor, but how they get this 11% or even Robin, but it's just, taking the upside from, if you're owning Bitcoin, then you get all the upside if you hold it in self-custody, or if you own MicroStrategy, at least in theory, it's pegged to all the upside. So you get that upside, but so with Stretch, they limit that upside. They get to take that, the gamble on that whenever that does go up, and they cap you at the 11%, 11.5%, whatever it ends up being at any given day. And that's how you get that, I guess, long story short. So I don't know if one of you wants to elaborate on it, but that's how they get it.
I mean, strategy is really fascinating for me, especially because of Stretch. I know people are also excited about Strike, Strive, and all that. I think Strike they're most excited about besides Stretch because it has the convertibility. I think 1 to 10, something like that, to this common shares in the future, which is a cool function. So you have some income and you have some upside potential if strategy rips. I personally don't do anything with the preferreds. I'm really interested in strategy because of Stretch, because of the preferred, because now they have a mechanism where they can raise money in a bear market, where they can raise money at absurd rates in the bear market. I think I brought those numbers up in the last stream already. I will bring them up again. In 2022, they raised around 100 Bitcoin per week because it was a very slow year. It was not an exciting year. 2022, it was just 100 Bitcoin per week. In 2021 and 2020, just as a comparison, it was about 1,000 Bitcoin per week. So like a 10x from what it was 2022. Now we're looking at like 6,000 to 7,000 to 8,000 Bitcoin per week, just in the starting of 2026, the first 2-3 months. And this is in a bear market where sentiment is super low, where everyone is hating on strategy. And so they completely transformed how they can actually raise money and do all of those things. If this Stretch, and I'm not a TradFi risk guy that knows about all the detailed things like, I don't know, Jeff Walton might be able to do, or Dan Hillary might be able to do it. But if I just have a simple thesis, if Stretch is still there in 5, 10, 15 years and still paying out that dividend, strategy will become a massive powerhouse because they figured out a way not only to acquire Bitcoin, but to sustainably acquire Bitcoin. That's the name of the game. Sustainable acquiring Bitcoin, because all the other Bitcoin treasury companies, I have a big question mark if they can do it sustainably over a very long period of time, if they don't have a profitable business underneath it. And my only bet currently is that strategy might be able to do it. I'm not 100% sure. Like, I have a small position strategy. But if they are able to do that, this will be a freaking powerhouse. And as Joe also said, like, being a part of the biggest Bitcoin treasury companies might just be a good thing if you're a Bitcoiner. And like, you don't have to go all in. Like, I'm not going all in at all. I always like the food analogy. My main course, my main dish, the steak, the dinner, that's Bitcoin in self-custody. That should be the main thing. But putting some green beans there as a stretch, as like, or like a tea, or a dessert, like whatever you want to call strategy. It's kind of the spice of the whole meal, yeah, that's how I look at strategy. Don't go all in. Don't do anything fancy with it, but having it in the portfolio as a mix might just be a good idea.
Yeah, and that's why I own it, honestly. Listening to you speak there, Robin, I was like, okay, that's why I own it. It's like, I know myself that I should probably, right after the show today, cash out my TFSA, which is what we have in Canada here. It's a tax-free savings account. And I should just buy Bitcoin with that. That's the best play. But my curiosity keeps me interested. That's pretty much why I own strategy, is because I'm just curious. I want to be part of it. I know that Saylor's going to win, and I want to be on Saylor's team with that. And the cool thing is like 95% of my wealth is in Bitcoin in self-custody. But I would still feel like shit if like Bitcoin's just continuously slugging upwards like this for the next decade, and then strategy is just like, and I'm not on board. I want a seat on that ship. That's why I own strategy. And I have no doubt that they're going to do it. So yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, what you want. And I think that a lot of strategy, the people who got into strategy and didn't understand Bitcoin, they missed the whole point of Bitcoin. They just saw the stock that was going up insane against everybody else. It was outperforming everything for a few years. But people missed the whole sovereignty aspect of Bitcoin, the fact that you can opt out of the system and store your Bitcoin in your head and go wherever you want to go with that Bitcoin. That's what it is. And it allows you, it's the only thing that allows you to opt out of the fiat system, which is the Titanic. It's the only thing that allows you to get off of the Titanic is Bitcoin and self-custody. So that's number one. And strategies just kind of keep me there for curiosity. But to answer your question, Brandon, the way they get away with 11% is it's a Ponzi scheme.
Disregard everything we said. All of it. The last 10 minutes, it is a Ponzi scheme, completely a Ponzi. Yeah, it's it's tough too, because this is I talk about this a fair amount, like the memes of Bitcoin cut both ways, and you have to be very careful, with it. If like never sell your Bitcoin and get off zero, and few Bitcoin fixes this, right? Like there's all these memes, and it's great for the average person, it's great for the normie, the pre-coiner, and it's great. But once you get in, then you go down these rabbit holes, like we've been talking about the whole show, and what you guys just explained. There's nuance to everything, so understanding the very first memes is huge. That has to be the jumping off point, and then the lens we see everything through. But then after that, you have to live your life. Like you have to spend some sats, build a circular economy. Like you might be investing in stretch or strategy a little bit here and there, like, oh, I've got this old pension, or whatever. Like, yeah, like just, in logistical, things, like it just makes sense to do some of these things. In a perfect world, which we don't live in, yeah, we would just all overnight choose the money that doesn't steal from us, and we would get rid of the currencies, and there you go. We have Bitcoin. It's not the world we live in. And at the end of the day, we can't all martyr ourselves. I know there are some people who are just going to go hardcore. I'm probably more of that mindset, but that's not reality. That's not practical. That's not pragmatic. And that's just not how life is going to play out. We need some people to survive and get across the finish line and keep building the new world. And the Puritans are going to do Puritan things. And at the end of the day, it's permissionless money. Like, we want everyone to use Bitcoin, but at the same time, now we're pissed when Saylor buys it, and we're like, well, it's great at first. Now he's creating these products off, and it's like, whoa. He's trying to centralize the Bitcoin. It's like, well, I thought everyone needed Bitcoin. Like, it's like, again, the memes cut both ways, and it's very tough. Like, every business should have Bitcoin. Every nation should have Bitcoin because they need it. And then when they do it, people get pissed. It's like, well, that's why people are having a hard time with us Bitcoiners, because they're like, you guys talk out of both sides of your mouth. So like, what the hell what am I supposed to do at the end of the day? The average person doesn't think like us. Newsflash. They're not all INTJs. They're not all entrepreneurial thinking. They're not all inventors, cypherpunks. Like, yeah, we're a small psychopathic group of people. Like, and that's just doesn't mean we're not going to win. Those people, the irate minority, pulls everyone across the finish line. But most people are never going to agree with you, and we just have to accept that. And I'm probably speaking to myself mainly. Oh man,
I always listen to you, Bratton.
I'm just giving myself a pep talk. That's all, guys. Don't mind me. Don't mind me at all.
I feel like half my videos are pep talks for myself.
Literally, that's yeah.
Therapy, like for yourself, always. I think this is a great point. Even though it's amazing, the best things also at some point have to come to an end. I'll remind everyone, because it's, I think, very important, as people pointed out in the chat, that it's there's some things going out there.
We're getting plowed. Thank you.
And I want to remind that. Oh wait, I had to.
We need to capture that audio while you're grabbing that. We need to while Robin's grabbing that. We need to capture that audio and you, Jor. We're getting plowed. That should be like our little intro and outro, right there. Little snippet.
Yeah, we need a soundboard.
We do. We need a soundboard bad. Oh man.
We're getting blood. But yeah, if you're not subscribed, if you're not watching this on the BTC Mastermind, please consider doing that. This will be our future home, where we have everything. We even consider potentially making more panels in the future. I already have some plans. Maybe I can do a second panel, maybe on Thursday, maybe on Saturday, because like I've took my podcast from 7 podcasts to 4, so I have like 2-3 other slots available in the week, and might just add another one, but this will not come anytime soon. Just that I want to make BTC Mastermind be the change. We want to make that a platform where we can have those discussions every week, and that's where we do it, and that's where you get all the live stream kind of shit.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And congrats to Robin on main stage at BTC Prague. Let's go. Let's go. I was just about to type this in the chat. Main stage at Prague. I got to make sure this hits so we can, it's timestamp forever in here. There we go. Put it in the chat. So
yeah, get that on screen too, Robin.
I know. Let's go. Yeah, pull that bad boy up.
Actually, shout out to everybody here, because when I was talking about the mastermind on the show this morning, there was like, I think we had 230 subscribers, and now we're at 269. So I will give you guys and girls credit. You took my threats seriously earlier.
Sing.
So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like if we want to all hang out together here on Tuesday afternoons, then the quickest path to that is just going over and subscribing to the channel so we know that there's going to be people in there. Right? So it's
Yep.
I agree. Like I would rather have everybody in the same spot, but we're not going to do that until there's a sufficient amount of people. Because we don't want to do a show. This is good info. We don't want to do it in front of 10 people. We want people over there. So just take 2 seconds right now, go over, subscribe. That's just kind of like your signal to us saying, hey, I'm ready for you guys and girls, or you guys, I guess, to stream on that exclusively so we can all hang out together.
Yep.
Where'd Robin go? There he is.
There he is.
I have my screens not all together, but yeah, it's really the main stage one is that took me by surprise. Like I don't know if you guys know about it, but it's I talked with the Bitcoin Broad guys, like, oh yeah, like I would love to present something, but like just put me on the side stage, like I'm totally fine with that. And we just never talked about it. And then the 1 week before, do you already have a title? And I'm like, yeah, this is the title. Like I don't want to talk about it. And then Monday the program drops, and they're like, yeah, you're here on the main stage. And I'm like, wait, you're putting this guy on the main stage? Like that's great. Like I still have to figure out exactly what I'm gonna say. I might actually write a very long article or a very small book according with my stage appearance, because I want to honor that 20 minutes. I want to respect what they're giving me and the audience that there was there. But that really. Like I had a tear of joy in my eyes, like yesterday.
So
Yesterday it was. That was really the trust that they're putting in me. That's unbelievable. This guy from the internet that has a podcast is not a keynote speaker. It does not make sense for me.
proof of work, man. Proof of work.
Exactly.
I mean, right? Like, but you put that amount of effort and energy. I mean, it's a lot of stuff what we talk about here. It's, for the chat, everyone, right? Like you put the work in, you do it, you keep showing up, and good things happen. It's weird how life works like that. So
what
cool.
a concept.
Yeah, I wish I would have thought of that. Dang.
I wish I would have been taught that as a kid, honestly. I really wish that I would have.
A lot of people, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing stuff. Yeah.
You always hear kind of this thing where rich people or people that are successful, they got there because of some like nefarious way. They did something wrong. They did something like illegal. Maybe it's more in Europe than in America. That could be true. I don't know how it is in Canada and in America, but that's the thing that I was always kind of getting at. Luckily, my dad was very different, and he always like instilled like entrepreneurship and all of those things very early on into me. But I really learned, like, if you want to make a bunch of money, you have to give a bunch of value to a bunch of people. Like, it's super easy. Why is Apple so valuable? Because they all gave us a bunch of value directly in our hands. 100%. It's like, if you want to put a lot of value in your own hands, first put the proof of work into other people's hands. Put a lot of value there. Like, it's very simple. Once you figure that, like, very thing out there.
It's so true, Robin. I mean, and it's such a great example of all that. And it makes me think of one of the things we talked about early on in the show, which is the fiat system, like it or not, whether it's, it's rugging people 24/7 very slowly, but it has a lot of proof of work. And so, and the culture, right? All these things, like, people have grown up in that system, right? So until Bitcoin has provided 100x value, like you were saying before, to umpteen number of people, to the right amount of people, the right saturation point amount of people for that iceberg to flip, the gradually then suddenly moments, then, we're just here, not spewing hot air, right? But we're here to educate people. We're here to, it feels like we're spewing hot air at times, right? We're talking to ourselves. Like, people have said in the chat many times, like, there's only 20 people here. There's only 100 people here. Like, we're really early. Well, we are. We're here for when people are ready, when they've realized, hey, Bitcoin has put in the proper amount of proof of work, which we don't know what that is yet as a society standard, versus this existing system that keeps rug pulling us very slowly. It's still the devil that and humans have a hard time with change. So the devil I know rug pulls me slowly. The wars, it's, most of us aren't involved in the wars, technically speaking. So it's like, okay, like, I don't have to go there, so like this, it's this weird balance. And we keep getting to this point where eventually the proof of work is, literally and figuratively the actual proof of work, but then from the society standard, there's a tipping point, and that people say, yeah, I'm going to this new system. I'm not putting up with this anymore. So it's a good way to wrap the show on a personal level, bringing it back to the beginning of the show, what we were talking about.
Yeah, Robin, can you put that quote up that I just shared in the chat there? I just didn't want to mess up the quote, so I figured this would be an easier way to do it.
So good. Yep.
Your income is in direct proportion to the value of your service to others. Like, it's literally that simple.
Yep.
Like, and there's no way to shortcut that either. Like, you can cheat it. And I think that's what really ties Bitcoin into my, I guess, I don't know what you'd call it, but right with my soul, with nature, is that's how things are. The fiat system got away with making everybody else like us provide value to the world. And then certain people at the top could extract that value from us. That the politicians, the people like that, they cheated this. And you can only cheat that for so long. And so Bitcoin really brings us back to nature in the sense of this is a law of the universe, in the sense that your income is direct proportion to the value of service to others. That's all it is. Like, it's really that simple. You want more money, then add more value to the world. And again, fiat system, people have been able to shortcut that, but you can only shortcut that for so long before nature kicks in. Nature always wins. Truth always wins. And that's what Bitcoin is. And that's why Bitcoin's going to win. So that's my end for the week.
Yep.
Awesome.
Great stuff, guys.
This is really cool. I love always how we wanted to end like 20 minutes ago, and then we just ran on like for 20 minutes more. It seems to be always the three of us. So thank you so much, Joe and Brandon, for sticking around a little bit longer. It was really cool. And yeah, thank you so much also for everyone that is in the chats. And also, we got a lot more people on the BTC Mastermind channel. I think at the height, we were at like 27 people watching live there, which is awesome because we started, I think, 3-4 weeks ago with nobody watching there. And so thank you so much for doing that. And yeah, awesome to have it back on, and see you guys next week.
See you guys. Great chat today.